You were so nervous you thought you stopped breathing, but no matter what, you didn't want to scare the tiny treasure. Oh! My heart! My heart! Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I am Espoir Duvid, and today I'd like to play more Our Life, Beginnings and Always. Let's see, in the last episode, we finished 3 of these moments in our childhood, and this is already so incredibly sweet. This game is going to rip out my heart, and I'm going to cry. So the next part of our summer is called Sandcastle. Cove wasn't able to do many things that summer. When you, him, and Shiloh sat out on the shoreline one bright morning, you could tell he wanted to be in the water. Oh, he can't swim because of his cast. But there was no way he'd be swimming anytime soon, not with his cast. The wave washed a single shell to shore, glittering in blue. Ooh, another reminder of the places he couldn't go. The possibilities of what he might get up to made you anxious. You thought about how his summer last year must have been really different from this, with his old home and his mom and his dad. But now he was here, with you and Shiloh and Lizzie and everyone else, and he couldn't even go into the sea. Aww. This town wasn't bad. It had all of your favorite things in it. But sitting there, on the same beach you'd grown up on, you could understand that not everybody else felt the same way about Sunset Bird as you. You watched him from the corner of your eye, quietly, and he finally said aloud what you had been pondering. I wish I could go in.
The water?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're gonna be able to do it soon.
Cove only sighed in response. Apparently soon wasn't soon enough.
It's so pretty, the ocean.
Mm-hmm. And huge. There could be anything out there. Like mermaids.
Yeah!
I wish you didn't have a cast. Swimming might be fun. Where's the I believe in mermaids too? Where's the when we can swim, you want to play mermaids together?
Swimming might be fun, if we could. But it's not like there's anything we can do about it.
Obviously not interested in hearing much more of your input on the situation, Cove turned back to the water. But as he looked away, something about Shiloh's slow, careful movements caught his eye. Hey, are you building a sandcastle?
Sort of. I was only playing around while you were talking. I'm listening.
Maybe I could too. I've only made big piles before.
It's really nothing special. I'm sure you'll be good at it right away.
Well, how do you do it then? Shiloh's cheeks lit up. You could tell he was a little bit uncomfortable to have Cove's expectant stare on him.
I'll play too.
I love making sand stuff. I do. I used to make a lot of sand stuff when I was little. None of them were castles. Well, they were sand stuff.
Okay.
He put his hands back to his seashells and sand and nodded.
I don't do a lot. Here's how I like to get a house started.
Shiloh, focusing more intently than you'd ever seen him, guided Cove through his process. You happily used your own method. It didn't take long for the 3 of you to each have humble structures prepared.
That's all, kind of. You can do anything now, like make it bigger, add some seashells, carve a pretty pattern. I bet you'll have great ideas.
Okay.
I'm gonna make it bigger. Mine is gonna be a real castle.
Cool. This is gonna be a house.
Looking at the base of your sandcastle, you decided to make, yeah, a castle. Looking at the base of your sandcastle, you decided to build a fancy castle. The better part of the next hour was spent focusing on your own work. The boys were the same. Even Shiloh didn't sneak as many peeks at everyone else as he usually did. You finished shaping before either of them did, glancing up from what you'd built. It seems you got done so fast because they already searched around for extra decorations. Shiloh had grabbed most of the really interesting stuff, and Cove had had a lot of shells, but there were still options. The first thing you reached for was a... Ooh, yeah, green piece of sea glass. It was the best fit for your castle, you decided. It was see-through and sparkly. Yeah, make it like stained glass windows. So you tucked it away somewhere secure inside, barely poking out to make sure it didn't get lost. Pleased with your result, you finally took a proper look around that wasn't focused on the sand itself. Both Cove and Shiloh seemed super immersed still. You knew you could probably sneak a peek at either one's work. I want to check out what Cove's doing. The castle Cove had built looked surprisingly tidy, especially for someone in a cast. He must have worked really hard. He wasn't even finished digging the huge gaping moat in front, but it was already enormous. You got the sense from the enthusiasm he was digging with that the doctor was probably going to find a bunch of sand when he finally removed the pink plaster. The silence was then broken. "What's that on top of yours, Shiloh?" You peeked closer and discovered something shiny sticking out of Shiloh's sand chimney.
Oh, it's just a gum wrapper. It looks like smoke.
Neat.
It's good. That's smart. Oh, yeah, you should be an architect. Well, I don't think putting a gum wrapper in a sandcastle means you should be the next Leonardo da Vinci or whatnot, but that is a good idea.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. You really know a lot about this.
Shiloh smiled without a word, and that was that for the current topic. Espoir, can I see what you did?
Sure.
He scooted just a bit nearer and began surveying your work. The castle you'd built was pretty impressive, all things considered. It had archways, tall walls, and even a little moat circling it. You would probably feel safe living there. Maybe your moms were the queens. Shiloh quickly decided to jump in the conversation.
Hey, Espoir, what did you do? I made a castle.
Shiloh didn't look so happy anymore.
You both built castles?
Yeah.
That's neat how you guys match. It's too bad we all didn't do that. Next time we should.
Wouldn't that be boring? If something is the only one of that thing, that makes it special.
Yeah, for sandcastles and stuff.
People too. My dad always says how everyone is their own man, a real individual.
I don't think I'm very special.
Why?
Why not? Nobody else is you. Shiloh simply shook his head.
I'm not different.
A beat passed between the two. Cove then looked down at his own work again. Okay. He didn't seem to be bothered leaving the disagreement hanging there. Cove had other things on his mind. My dad tried to get me to make sandcastles the first time we came to the beach. I didn't want to. Cove trailed off. Again, there was another moment of silence. Shiloh shifted and opened his mouth to say something, but Cove spoke up before he could. You didn't think he noticed that Shiloh was going to talk. Hey, do you know what happened when your moms met my dad, Espoir? You blinked, not expecting the question. You thought hard.
I wasn't there. They didn't tell me. I just remember what happened when I met your dad.
Mr. Holden had been a weird stranger then. Well, he was still kind of strange. No other parent acted like him, but you knew him better at this point. Now that you thought about it, it made a lot of sense that Cove's dad talked to him about people being unique. You were pulled from your thoughts when Cove continued.
Oh,
Well, I was there.
I don't think my mom has met your dad.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she hasn't. Espoir's parents and my dad met the same day I met her. I'm gonna say what happened. Shiloh frowned to himself, ducking his head. His hat cast a shadow over his face. You could still tell that he was upset at not being included in Cove's choice of topic. Aww. That was kind of boring for him, though giving people their own turn to say the things that they want is important too. Yeah, Cove, I think Shiloh wants to say something. We're finally teaching this poor baby boy about individuality. Huh? We were talking, just not right now. I'm talking to you. He can listen. Shiloh's expression barely flickered at the words. He still looked put off. Cove continued like the interruption hadn't happened. He was determined to tell the tale. When we moved here, we didn't bring a lot of things with us. Only stuff that would fit in Dad's car. We didn't even get a moving truck. I sat in there while Dad bought it all inside. I didn't want to get out because I knew Dad would make me look around the new house. I really didn't want to do that. His lips twisted into a frown as he recalled that. Then I saw your moms. They were in a car too and stopped at your house. I guess they were coming back from somewhere or something. My dad noticed. He waved his hand, then went over to the front of your house where he started talking to them. I don't know what they said. I couldn't hear it. But he couldn't see me anymore since he was looking the other way, so I opened the car door and left. I wanted to get away and went behind the houses. I found those hills there, the ones where we met for the first time. Cove nodded, then stared at you. You stared back. He didn't go on to say anything more. Oh, he just snuck out of the car?
Is that it?
Cove's brow wrinkled like he didn't understand why you were surprised.
huh?
that's all that happened. Okay. Sorry, Cove, that was kind of a bit of a nothing burger. What is it? What? You said that in a weird way. Did I? Cove narrowed his eyes at you. Suspicious. Come on, Cove. You didn't give me anything about that. Shiloh's mouth twisted into a scowl of disbelief, but he said nothing. Why'd you bring that up anyway? Yeah, why did you bring that up? There was a slight shrug of Cove's shoulders.
Well,
I was thinking about it because of the sandcastle. It made me remember when I moved to here. Dad showed me the beach first, before we went back to the car to unpack. He was really excited about it for some reason. Cove's brows furrowed a little more as he quietly raked his hands through the sand.
I get it.
You thought maybe Mr. Holden wasn't that excited about the beach and was instead hoping Cove might be. But the line of conversation had come to its end. Even Cove was done with it. Some other topic had popped into his head. Shiloh, fidgeting uncomfortably in the sand, had made Cove aware of his presence again. They looked at each other, and you could only wonder what this might be about. Hey, Shiloh?
Yeah?
Why are you always turning so red, even when nothing's happening? Clearly startled, he jerked back. Neither you or Shiloh had expected that to be how he got included into the conversation again.
I don't know, I guess.
Okay, it's kind of weird. Come on, Cove. Shiloh's eyes were wide with embarrassment, and his lips twitched, and he was blushing even harder than before. Maybe it wasn't only this. Perhaps it was simply the last straw. But it was a big deal to Shiloh. A huge deal. He didn't just look sad. He seemed almost panicked. Oh! You weren't sure if he was about to cry or run away or what, but you soon got an answer.
Why do you wear glasses? Most kids don't wear glasses, and nobody's named Cove.
Who asked you to come?
It was probably just your dad bugging us as families some more, 'cause you don't have anyone else who'll ever play with you.
Cove blinked. Aww, we're glad that you're getting this out, Shiloh. The tension on the beach was suddenly uncomfortable in ways you didn't know how to even mention. It didn't seem like the kind of thing he'd get upset about, though you hadn't ever known what kind of thing would bother Shiloh.
I'm sorry.
Me too. I was just wondering. Yeah, let's build another sandcastle, this time together.
The day is gonna be over soon. Espoir, you're right. The sun is going down so fast.
We all went back to making more sand buildings, but the whole mood had changed. Shiloh's cheeriness was clearly gone, and Cove looked as confused as ever about why the other boy had blown up. I mean, you didn't let him speak, but then again, these are children. The air stayed uncomfortable the rest of the afternoon, right up to the moment that Shiloh's mom appeared at the beach to take him home. At least, you'd tried to do something to resolve it, though, and it seemed like it helped. Even though Shiloh's smile when he said goodbye to Cove wavered, it stayed as bright as ever for you. That had to count for something. But with Shiloh gone and the sun going down, you knew it was time for you and Cove to head to your own houses. You followed him as he made his way out of the sand. The walk home was quiet. You passed by familiar landmarks, shoes thumping against the sidewalk in near-perfect unison. Cove was clearly caught up in thinking about something. What you thinking about? The prospect of asking made you nervous, but you did anyway.
Hey, is everything okay?
Oh, I was just wondering. Cove fell silent again for a few more seconds, and then sighed. Why'd Shiloh act like that when I said he was all red a lot? This is tough. He was kind of being rude to Shiloh. Yeah, you were kind of putting him out of the conversation. No, I wasn't. Yeah, you were. It looked like that to me, and I wasn't just saying the one thing. You're not very nice to Shiloh. Yeah, when we first met him, you were like you didn't even want to meet Shiloh. You didn't even know him, and you were trying to jump out the window away from him. I didn't mean it like that. Shiloh is kind of weird to talk to. See? That's kind of rude. I guess I get it. Why he would do that? Sometimes I get really mad too. Despite seemingly coming to a conclusion, Cove's mood was still sour. Hey, Espoir, was Shiloh telling the truth? His gaze left yours as he dug the sole of his shoe into the ground. He looked oddly vulnerable for a second. "Does my dad make you hang out with me? I know he talks to your moms about that a lot." An uncomfortable weight settled in your chest at the question. You liked spending time with Cove. You didn't even have to think hard about it. You knew you did. But you couldn't help feeling guilty. Cove still didn't know about what happened when you met Mr. Holden. "Oh, I could tell him. No, that would crush him. Oh, I'm not going to do that. Nobody's making me spend time with you." Cove's shoulders relaxed. You hadn't even noticed that he had tensed up. "Yeah, that's what I thought too. Anyway, I didn't think you were pretending. I just wanted to make sure it was okay is all."
Thanks.
"Thanks for telling me." Your throat tightened. It was hard to meet Cove's earnest gaze again. Keeping secrets was hard.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not too much of a secret. I mean, that $20 is just for one time, and anything afterwards is what I decide. As far as I know, I've already paid off that $20. By now, the two of you were on the sidewalk near your houses. It was time to part ways. I don't know. Should we hug yet? I don't know. I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we're at hug yet. But I am gonna say goodbye. Or let's see, nudge or say goodbye. Yeah, I'll just say goodbye right now.
Bye. See you tomorrow.
Cove smiled and nodded firmly.
Bye, Espoir.
You made your way to your house, crossing the driveway to get to the front door. When you looked back, you saw Cove making his way back home too. As if he felt your eyes on him, he turned around. He waved, and you did too. You still felt a little unsure with what you were supposed to do about the deal Cove's dad had offered. You didn't want to say something bad or something you shouldn't. You had no idea how Cove would take it either. It would be terrible if it made him feel bad. What if he didn't want to play with you anymore? You might change your mind sometime. There was always tomorrow after all. But for now, it was definitely something that you kept to yourself. With a final look, you went inside your house. Oh, a sandcastle. What is fireflies?
All right.
Ah, Lizzie jump scare!
Tonight, we're gonna catch fireflies.
At this blunt declaration from your sister, you looked up from your macaroni and cheese dinner. Fireflies were a familiar sight over the summer, coming out on warm nights to dance with the sky. Tonight was particularly balmy. You knew there were bound to be a ton of them around. Oh, you are you? You started eating faster. Hee hee hee. A grin curved your lips as you started to eat a bit faster, excited for what was to come. It seemed like you were too excited, however, as you started to choke and cough on your food from shoveling it down so quickly. Mommy reached over to pat you on the back, firmly helping to dislodge the noodles and enable you to breathe again. You took a big gulp of water from your glass, giving your moms a sheepish look.
Oops. That's a good idea, Lizzie. Can we, Mrs. David?
Shiloh tapped his fork against the table excitedly, his face lighting up as he looked at Lizzie. It was unusual for Shiloh to still be here. Like always, his mom had to bring him over really early in the morning before her job started, but normally she would have picked him up by now. She called before dinner to let your moms know she'd be late. You didn't hear why. Probably more work things. You thought maybe getting to hang out with Shiloh for longer is what made Lizzie want to keep running around outside. Staying at home and watching TV was never an option for her, with guests over. That's why you were pretty sure she'd get your moms to agree. Well, it's already so dark out there. Lizzie gave Mom the best puppy dog eyes she could, slowly spooning mac and cheese into her mouth while you waited there for their response.
There.
Let them go. Nights like this don't happen every day. Your parents exchanged a look. Then Mom eventually sighed and nodded back.
Yes!
Along with Lizzie's cheers, you threw your arms up in triumph, but waited until you finished chewing to say anything because you knew it was rude to talk with your mouth full. Fine. Just make sure you stay on the hill behind our house with all the poppies, okay?
Duh, Mom. That's where most of them are.
The idea had only just been planted in your head, but already you could just picture all the glowing lights spread out in front of you, like the fairies from the bedtime stories Mommy read sometimes. All too quickly, it became a race to see who could finish their food first. No choking at the dinner table now. That's right, if someone died, we'd have to cancel the Firefly trip after all. Mom said it like a joke, but you knew that they were both telling you kids to slow down. Shiloh did immediately. When you glanced at Lizzie, you saw her still eating faster than she should.
Elizabeth!
Jeez.
No one's gonna die, sheesh.
A knock on the door interrupted Mom before she could no doubt scold your sister.
I'll get it!
Your big sister jumped out of her seat and ran over to the door, pulling it open without even looking out the window to see who it was. It's the FBI, Lizzie! We gotta hide the illegal Play-Doh before we open up the door.
Huh?
You shifted in your seat to try to get a glimpse at the unexpected guest.
Hi.
Aw, good evening, Cove. Your mommy had already walked to the door by the time you managed to see past Shiloh's floppy hat. Why does Shiloh always wear a hat? A big smile stretched across your face. When you lifted your hand and waved, Cove's pink cast went up to return it shortly after. It didn't matter why he was there. It meant he could join you all in catching the fireflies. Oh, this is going to be precious. Then, for a few seconds, Cove said nothing. He only stood there and looked up at your mommy with a face almost like he was considering turning around and leaving.
My dad told me to drop this off 'cause I guess he borrowed it from you.
Cove took a familiar screwdriver from his large side pocket, eyes now dropped to the floor.
He left ours back home when we moved. Great, thanks, bye.
Thank
Lizzie! Thank you. Here, why don't you come inside for a bit? Lizzie crossed her arms and lifted her chin. Cove shrugged, and Mom stood from the table too. I'll give your dad a call to let him know you got here all right. Cove shuffled fully inside, eyes remaining on the ground. Mommy closed the door behind him.
Hi.
Hi, Cove.
Shiloh gave Cove a friendly smile, while waving by holding up his hand and opening and closing his fingers. Cove nodded in response.
Cove, you want to catch up fireflies with us?
You could see Lizzie eyeing you for mentioning the excursion to an outsider, but she'd get over it. You dragged your foot over the floor in front of you, feeling too shy to say any more.
Yeah.
I can do that. I've never caught one before. It's too bad he didn't have a chance before now. The fireflies weren't out when he first moved in, and there must not have been any where he used to live.
We can't go until after dinner.
After she pointed this out, Lizzie walked back to the table and took her seat. There wasn't much left on her plate. Since this was very true, you decided to finish up your own stuff as well. Cove stepped closer and eyed what was on the menu for your family's meal. Have you eaten yet?
Yeah, my dad and I ate earlier. What did you have?
Eggs. The clipped one-word answers seemed to discourage Shiloh from asking any more questions. His eyes slowly wandered back to the last scraps of food on his plate. Her phone call with Cove's dad must have ended, 'cause your mom came back into the room.
Okay.
Cove, your dad said you could stay for a while if you'd like, but he's going to come get you before it gets too much later. Sure.
Fun.
Oh, fun. This will be so nice. Oh, as you polished off the meal, you hoped it would be too. The three of you all finished eating shortly after, and Lizzie led the way outside.
Remember, don't stray too far. It's fine, Mom.
Shiloh trailed so closely after Lizzie he was nearly stepping on her heels. Cove hesitated at the door. You smiled lightly at Cove, gesturing for him to follow. After a moment,
Bye.
he did. Bye, children. Oh, my moms are so pretty. The two of you were a good 10 or 15 feet behind Lizzie and Shiloh by the time you walked outside. You pushed the door shut behind you, watching their figures get further and further away.
Hurry up!
You're so slow, Espoir. We don't have all night.
You started to run when you heard Lizzie's voice calling you, but paused when you saw Cove still walking at a relaxed pace. Yeah, I would probably slow down for him. You fell behind, siding up next to him and matching his stride. He noticed right away.
It's okay.
You can go ahead if you want.
You smiled and shook your head. After a while, the two of you reached the hill behind the house. Yeah, it's not like the fireflies are going to go anywhere. The fireflies were out in full force, floating on the breeze, their gentle glow winking in and out and creating an almost magical effect. Lizzie had already climbed to the top. Shiloh was spinning in circles somewhere around the middle. Oh,
Wow.
Shiloh took a moment to come over and welcome the both of you to the hill.
Hi, guys. It's really great out, huh? See how many there are?
Yeah. A firefly danced through the air, landing on Cove's sea-green head. I quietly looked on. You took a couple of steps back slowly, trying not to spook the little bug as you admired how it glowed so brightly against Cove's hair. Cove raised an eyebrow, giving you a confused look, and Shiloh giggled. You gestured to his head, and he reached up, making the firefly dart away. Cove jumped, then followed after the glow.
Oh. Oh, look! Lizzie has one! That's amazing!
Shiloh ran to the highest point of the hill, making sure not to lose his hat or backpack along the way. You hummed as the group divided and conquered, shifting your gaze to the dozens of other fireflies sailing around. The game was on. Huh, I do have a bandage on my finger. I guess I could say I have a bandage on my thumb. Spotting one close by, you approached it with assassin-like stealth, crouching down to make yourself seem like less of a threat. Slowly dragging one foot in front of the other, you crept up towards it, arms outstretched. You closed your hands around the little glowing orb, careful not to crush it. The firefly landed on your palm, almost docile, and you stared down at your prize in delight. Its tiny legs tickled your skin, and you giggled at the sensation. Cove kept up with his own target, but when he tried to grab it, his pink cast wavered awkwardly through the air, foiling his efforts to clap his hands around the firefly. I don't remember catching fireflies being that difficult. Cove watched it vanish into thin air with a dissatisfied expression on his face. It's alright, there's plenty of fireflies out here, don't you worry about that. You walked up beside him and gave him an encouraging smile. Did you catch one? You nodded, and Cove gave up his hunt for the moment, coming closer and peering at the insect still crawling across your palm. You held out your hand and he leaned closer, eyes widening a tad behind his glasses. Cove remained hypnotized by the little bug as he inched his hand closer to yours. Ultimately, he settled his fingers lightly over the top of the ones you were holding open. It tingled. Oh! You stayed very still. You were so nervous you thought you stopped breathing, but no matter what, you didn't want to scare the tiny treasure. Oh! The firefly, noticing the new connection, crawled up onto Cove's hand. He quietly gasped. It worked!
Yeah, you got one!
Cove's lips turned up into a slow smile, and his eyes shined brighter than the bug. My heart! My heart! Thanks, Espoir. With a laugh, he gave the palm of your hand a friendly smack, performing an awkward low five. Startled by the extreme movement, the tiny light disappeared before you could even blink. Your firefly was gone.
Sorry.
It's okay. Do you see all these fireflies everywhere? Don't worry about it. You would not believe your eyes. If 10,000 fireflies.
That's okay. I couldn't keep it forever.
You're right.
Right. Bugs have to stay outside. Let's get another. Yeah, let's do it. Let's collect more.
Uh-huh. We can work together.
His face broke out into a wide grin. We'll get a bunch. With renewed vigor, you ran out into the hill. You're not sure how much time passed while you were in the thick of it. All you could focus on was the adventure at hand. No critter was safe from your grasp. At first you tried to keep a tally of how many you had caught, but once the number grew higher than 10, you had no more fingers left to count with. You were having the time of your life, racing up and down the hill with the crash of the ocean and the sound of everyone's laughter echoing in the background. Espoir! This way! You followed the sound of Cove's voice to the top of the hill, watching as he stretched his arms in front of him, reaching with his fingers and only narrowly missing his target. Cove and you took turns trying to scare fireflies in the direction of the other. You showed him some techniques that you had learned, like how to cup your hands correctly, and he listened attentively before trying for himself. There were a few times when you almost ran into each other, giggling as you dove to the side at the last moment. Luckily, disaster was avoided each time. It was an overall huge success with the both of you catching multiple fireflies each. Eventually, the fireflies began to thin out, and your energy started to lapse. You decided it was time to call off the hunt. Cove didn't complain. He breathed in heavily, and his face seemed really flushed. That was fun. A lot of fun. You smiled at him broadly, happy that he had enjoyed the activity.
Yeah, it was.
Come on!
Espoir, Cove, get up here. We're gonna have a race.
The shouting caught you off guard. It had been quite a while since you heard from Lizzie or Shiloh. You glanced over to see them both standing on the top of the hill again, Lizzie beckoning to you with quick hand gestures. If she was like that, you knew there wasn't much room for disagreement. Up the incline you went. From the corner of your eye, you saw Cove was coming as well. He didn't care for Lizzie a lot, so you thought he might be intrigued just by the idea of a race.
Hi.
Cove.
Hi, Cove. You can't roll down the hill. You could hurt your arm again. You'll be the referee for the rest of us.
As Lizzie pointed this out, Cove froze in place. Oh, it was that kind of race. He frowned down at his cast. That was the second time it got in the way tonight.
What? Yeah, you'll watch and see who gets to the bottom first. That's important. Got it?
I guess.
The cast was sturdy. If he was careful, he could have done it. Lizzie might have just been looking for a reason to make someone else be the referee, but it was already decided. Aw, I don't want Cove to stay left out. And I'm tired. I don't feel like rolling around. I'll stay with Cove.
Really?
Really? Why? You don't have to. Hey, most races have multiple judges.
It's okay. I want to watch.
You moved beside him on top of the hill, even though Lizzie eyed you and made a face.
That's not how races work. We only need one referee.
Shrugging your shoulders, you refused to budge, and Lizzie let out a huff before throwing her hands in the air.
Fine. I'll be the winner whether you join or not.
Lizzie moved to lay down, and Shiloh did the same. Cove stood slightly to the side to get a better vantage point, and you stood next to him.
Count down!
Cove stood up a little straighter. It seemed like he was taking his newfound referee duty seriously. 3, 2, 1, go! Lizzie and Shiloh took off, letting gravity do the work and rolling at high speeds towards the bottom of the hill. One of you was going to end up in a cast. You and Cove leaned forward to watch them go, eyes peeled for which of the two would reach the bottom first. They were both neck and neck, until about halfway down the hill, Lizzie started to veer off to the side, giving Shiloh a huge advantage. Like it's Lizzie and Shiloh are neck and neck. They're neck and neck. Oh, what's this? Lizzie rolls off to the side. It's Shiloh for the win. Goal! She obviously hadn't noticed a thing. As soon as Shiloh reached the bottom of the hill, he jumped up excitedly and threw his hands in the air.
I won!
Almost immediately, he fell back onto the grass, still dizzy from his roll down the hill. Lizzie stomped out of the bush she had ended up in, spluttering angrily and brushing leaves from the front of her dress.
Not bad. You got lucky. Let's do it again and see who wins for real.
Kids, it's time to come in.
No!
You snickered, feeling grateful you hadn't been part of the mini debacle. You caught Cove's eyes and saw that he was doing the same. Yeah. It had gotten late and was beginning to feel just a bit chilly as you made your way out of the hills, but the cold in the air hadn't dampened anyone's spirits. The four of you walked back home together, side by side, down your neighborhood street, discussing the evening, with each person trying to prove that they were the one who caught the most fireflies. You knew that whoever really did catch the most didn't matter much anyway. All that matters was that you all had a good time, which, judging by the smiles on everyone's faces, you did.
Oh, it's so precious. So precious.
I got a new wig. It's a short wig for all the summer adventures that were going on. And it looks extra emo if I put the bang down like this. Because tonight will be the night that I will fall for you. So today we're going to the library. Every year, the Sunset Bird Memorial Library held a summer reading program. I remember summer reading programs. I would get a pizza party from Pizza Hut. Your moms and Lizzie were big fans of it. Mom and Mommy because it encouraged reading, and Lizzie because she could win prizes. When it came to what you thought of having to read a bunch of books and then going to the library with a competitive Lizzie, you know what? As much as I liked getting the pizza parties and the little book reading book club, I did not like reading very much. But there was no way to get out of it when everyone else in your family adored it, and it wasn't like you could say anything to their faces anyway. You and Lizzie went with Shiloh before, and this year you'd brought Cove too. His dad had been so over the moon about Cove being included that he'd driven all 4 of you. Aww. You had never been in Cove's dad's car before. It seemed a lot shinier than your mom's. Oh, this place is lovely. I can smell it. Ugh, the smell of a library when you're in elementary school. After herding the group inside, Mr. Holden gave you all a wide wave with the arm that has a stingray on it. Oh, cool. Have fun, kids. Stay inside of the librarians, you hear? I wish I could watch you in action, but your poor old dad has to finish up some work.
I got it.
Though I'm sure that won't get in the way. Heck, I'd probably hold you kids back. There's pointedly no reply from his son over what was likely meant as only a joke. Cove's dad seemed to deflate a bit. Aw, the funniest dad, and he's got a son with no sense of humor. I'll swing around again when this shindig ends.
Yeah, you can go home now.
Aw.
Aw, you don't have to throw me out the door. Your sister, already in full competition mode, cut him off. For once, Cove looked grateful she was there.
Come on!
We have to go find a table, Mr. Holden. You can talk to Cove after when we win.
Okay. See you in about an hour. Have fun! Did I say that already? My advanced age is really catching up to me now.
Bye.
Sir! Cove is like, bye, Dad! Oh, does their relationship improve in the future? Bye, Dad. Bye, son. The 4 of you watched him shuffle out of the library, glancing over his shoulder at Cove more than once.
Bye.
Bye, Mr. Holden. Thank you for bringing us.
Thanks, Lizzie.
I don't know what you're thanking me for. Are you copying Shiloh?
Distracted, Cove was already glancing around the gigantic library. I want to go explore.
What?
I said I want to go look around and see what's in here.
But the quiz starts soon. That's why we came.
Wide at the first signs of conflict, Shiloh's eyes darted between Lizzie and Cove. Then you can do it without me, right? You don't need a bunch of people.
Didn't your dad say to stay with the librarians? You shouldn't go somewhere by yourself.
Cove leveled an unimpressed stare at the both of them. Then his eyes met yours. Hi, Daisy. Daisy would like my attention. I'm trying to spend time with my friends at the library.
Hey!
Why are you looking at her? Espoir's with us.
Espoir can come if she wants to. So, Cove's idea is more fun, stick with Lizzie, go exploring. The quiz sounds better, go over to Cove, stay next to Lizzie. Being a child is hard. So I don't want to stay next to Lizzie, because I kind of don't want to be here either. I mean, I like the library, I just don't like reading. Yeah, I kind of like exploring the library. I'm not just siding with Cove because he's the love interest, but I don't want to sit at a table with a bunch of other people doing a quiz that I probably don't know with books that I probably didn't read. I'd rather go exploring.
Seriously?
Yes, Lizzie. Cove looked surprised, but happy at the same time. I didn't do this for you, Cove. It's not like I like you or anything, but Babaka. You had never told her that you didn't like it, and Lizzie tended to assume people would just agree with her. And your sister, unlike Cove, was furious. I'm sorry, Lizzie, you know I don't like reading.
Fine. Let's go, Shiloh.
Her arms folded, your sister stormed off. Shiloh had to race up to keep up with her. She cares a lot about that. Uh-huh. Shiloh looks like a chihuahua trying to keep up with a horse. You couldn't help but laugh. Since you've been here a lot before, we could play hide and seek.
Hide and seek? Not exploring?
Yep, if I'm searching for you and you're searching for me, we really have to look at everything. You weren't entirely sure of how effective that would be, but couldn't say that he was totally wrong. This doesn't seem like a good idea, Cove. I'll hide first. Decision made. Cove took off towards the back of the library. You already agreed to play with him instead, so you covered your face and waited for 10 seconds. When you looked up again, he was nowhere to be seen. You glanced over towards the way he went. Cove hadn't had much time to hide, but he was already invisible. The place you decided to check was, see, next to the Peter Pan poster, besides the fairy tale display, behind the solar system model. Your library's solar system display was pretty neat. It had all of the planets, from the sun on out, and it had its own little section behind the science books. But you saw a tiny pair of familiar shoes poking out from under the earth, so you leaned around it.
Hi!
Hey.
He turned back to the earth and its tiny moon.
From this spot, I think it's supposed to be a solar eclipse. It kind of blocks out the sun.
You looked at it, tilting your head. He was right. This thing was something you always walked by, but you'd never noticed that before. Hide and seek did seem to be working out for finding interesting things.
Okay.
Your turn now. I'm gonna cover my eyes and count to 10. I promise I won't peek.
While Cove hid his eyes securely behind the palms of his hands, you went to go hide, under the giant piece of fruit. He'll never find me. Nobody had any idea why there was a giant peach sitting in the corner. It's for the book James and the Giant Peach. It had something to do with a book about a kid named James. Lizzie had once said, but you'd never read it. I would read it. I don't like to read books. I would read James and the Giant Peach. The huge sculpture mostly just took up a lot of space, but you could wedge yourself in next to it and hide carefully. Sure enough, it took a little while for Cove to find you. Long enough that you'd gotten tired of sitting hunched up. You won this round and were ready to come out. Cove smiled when you stepped into the open. He was also glad for the resolution.
Good hiding spot. I was about to start looking outside. Thanks. I'm pretty good at this.
You grinned back as you brushed the debris off your clothes. Nobody had cleaned back there in a long time.
All right.
It's my turn again. Start counting so I can go pick a spot. Okay.
Cove darted off before you even had a chance to fully close your eyes.
1 Mississippi.
10. When the time was up, he was long gone. Again. There were still a lot of good places to hide, so you figured he was, behind the Willy Wonka statues. There's Willy Wonka statues? This is a sick library. Willy Wonka statues. He must be next to all of the Willy Wonka statues, you thought, and you were right. Cove was standing there, looking at them. You must have missed him in the crowd at first sight, but he wasn't really hiding at all.
Oh, hey. These are creepy.
The statues were made of brass. Lizzie had told you once. Apparently, they were all the kids that had gone to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. Charlie Bucket, Augustus Gloop, Veruca Salt.
I was gonna hide here, but they're too weird. Let's keep playing. I need to do good in at least one round.
He put his hands over his eyes, but before you could run off again, a librarian approached the two of you. They're like, "Are you two having fun?" "Ah, kids, I've been looking for you." Cove peeked between his fingers at the stranger.
Us?
"You must be Cove. Your dad told me he was waiting by the entrance." Cove blinked, mouth open like he was going to say something, then glanced down at his pink cast. It was a pretty clear giveaway.
Sure. Is my sister Lizzie with him? She's taller than us and she has orange hair.
You're Espoir, right? You nodded. Phew, I found both of you at once. That's right, she's with him, and the little guy with freckles. Come on, let's go get you reunited so you can close up for the night. Oh, we're here at night? Ready to go home, you and Cove followed him up front, where the ragtag group of family members and Shiloh were all waiting. Aw.
Hey!
There you are.
She was pouting. You could tell from all the way across the room, and it was only that much more obvious as you got closer. Did you win? That's just what I was gonna say.
We came in second.
Hey, gang. I thought you'd have been with them the whole time, Cove. I'm glad you didn't just go off by yourself, at least. Cove glanced over at you, then back up at his dad.
Yeah.
Me too.
A broad smile spread over Mr. Holden's face.
That's...
Even so. Next time, you should... Cove? Cove? Cove's dad glanced around, slightly frantic, but Cove, just like always, had snuck off without thinking to say anything.
He's leaving. Cove's trying to be the first one into the car.
With a sudden burst of speed, Lizzie darted for the exit, still in Victor-to-be mode, even for something like a race to ride in the front seat. There was nothing else for the three of you to do except head after them, pretending the librarians hadn't noticed all the commotion. Though Lizzie had been victorious in claiming a window seat in the car, you could tell by her crossed arms and occasional pout that she still had not forgiven your betrayal. Lizzie, you know I don't like reading. Cove had sighed when he had to sit in the middle after Lizzie shot past him at the last second, but he cheered up as soon as you hopped into the back seat next to him. Did you say you came in second place? That's some good going.
No.
No, it's not.
She levied another glare at you over her shoulder.
Lizzie, you
I can't retain any of this stuff.
Sure.
Ah, sure. Striving to improve is good, too.
That makes us spoil the winner in your family.
Cove, please. You wriggled in your seat, hiding a smile behind your hands.
What?
Espoir kept finding me in our game. I lost. We need a rematch. Hide and seek with just you two? That doesn't even count as winning.
Why?
Why not? It's not special. There's no judges or prizes.
You eyed the seat that she'd fought so hard to win. That wasn't much of a prize either.
Dad.
Yes? You could see Cove's dad's eyes in the rearview mirror, suddenly attentive at his son's call.
We need a prize.
Oh, as a matter of fact, Mr. Holden focused intently on the road ahead, as though a suitable reward to please Cove might appear before him. Right. The big thing on the flyer for this was the chance to get a free pizza coupon, wasn't it? How about I call up a takeout place and we can have pizza at home for dinner? That sounds like an amazing idea.
Lizzie huffed, pulling her arms closer to her chest. Is Mom even gonna let you take a pizza from Mr. Holden?
We'll see. I'll ask her. I'll talk to all of your moms about this. Pleased, you smiled as you stared out of the window at the scenery whizzing by.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Holden. Yeah, thanks, Dad.
You're welcome. I do what I can. But you really should have stuck with the group. The quiz would have been fun. That was the plan when I dropped you off.
We stayed together, and I didn't leave the library.
I'm glad for that. I am. Well, there's a lot of trouble you can get into, even if you do have a buddy along for the ride. Just be careful next time. I worry about you, and I bet Espoir's parents wouldn't want her to run off unexpectedly either. Okay, son?
Okay.
That's my boy. Now, enough guff from your old dad. Let's decide what kind of toppings we're gonna get.
Pepperoni!
For once I agree with you, Lizzie. Sounds good. Anything else? And the conversation continued from there, with debates on what was best to put on a pizza for the rest of the drive. Mr. Holden wanted anchovies, and the other three kids in the car had to band together to explain how gross they were. Hey, maybe not on pizza, but you put anchovies in spaghetti sauce? It's amazing. The way Cove's dad laughed up in the front seat made you wonder if he was doing it on purpose. You'd had a fun day already, but closing it out with the promise of a free pizza after all and more time to hang out with Cove made it even sweeter. You were so glad there ended up being a way to salvage the day. Maybe you could come up with a way to skip the quiz again next year.
Oh, that's so sweet.
What's ghost? Is there ghosts? The night was incredibly still. You really couldn't ignore how silent it was. It was almost eerie. You could even hear Lizzie snoring in the next room over. It was hard to believe how much of a blur today was. Summer sure did slip right past you. You flicked through the moments like pages in a scrapbook as you laid in bed. The ones that stuck out all seemed to include your new neighbor, Cove. It was funny how he had become such a big part of your life in such a short span of time. You thought a lot about what adventures you could have tomorrow until sleep started to catch up to you. Then you heard something scrape against the window. It wasn't that uncommon for the wind to push a tree branch against the glass. Summer breezes were the worst sometimes. But the more you tried to ignore it, the louder it seemed like it became. It was like something was trying to get your attention. You lifted your head off the pillow to get a better look. Nothing was there. Nothing you could see, at least. Was it a ghost? Yeah, you had to investigate the mysterious sound. It was too creepy to ignore. Get up in its face and be like, "What up?" You practically jumped out of bed and crept down the stairs to go outside. Your moms were still awake. They stayed up so late, it seemed. Luckily, they were watching TV and didn't hear the soft click of the front door opening as you slipped past. You looked around the neighborhood for a few seconds. Wait, I'm all the way outside? I thought I was just going to our backyard. This is scary. Checking over each individual house, it looked normal, but it didn't feel that way. You knew you weren't supposed to be out here at night. It's scary. Let's go back. You didn't know what had come over you. If something bad happened, no one would know where you had gone, and the thought of that made your stomach tighten in fear. The ease with which you had slipped out only served to make you feel worse. Your moms didn't need to be vigilant because they had trusted you not to do exactly what you were doing. Espoir? Cove? You twitched at the sudden call, immediately calming down upon seeing Cove walking up to you. It was strange, and yet also completely normal, to have him appear like this right away. What are you doing? I saw you standing around in the middle of the street from my window.
You weren't sleeping either? Why not?
The real question is, why are you wearing a sweater in summer? Cove turned up his lips to smile, almost as if he were amused by the question. Because... Yeah, I'm glad you're here. I was just scared. Whatever the reason is, at least you are no longer alone in the dark.
Why?
I heard a strange noise.
You too? That's why I was up. Cove hesitated for a moment, looking down the street before his aquamarine eyes fell on you again. Did it scare you?
Yeah.
I mean, a little? Yeah.
It's okay.
I'm scared.
Me too, but,
It's okay. Nothing is gonna happen. You could see Cove was trying to be brave for your sake, and it made you feel a little better. I was kind of wondering if it was the wind, but what if it's not? What if it's a person? What if it's something that's not a person? The unsettling noise suddenly rushed through the air. Cove and you flinched. It sounds even worse than before. You were about to agree with him when the noise came yet again, tearing through the still night. The two of you rapidly looked around, trying to find the source, but to no avail. There was no sign of an answer to this puzzle. You thought that, yeah, I wouldn't jump to a ghost. There's gotta be a logical explanation for this. You didn't believe in monsters or anything like that. Whatever was making the noise, it was something real. Though that didn't stop you from being scared. Lots of things that really existed were frightening and dangerous. You shuffled closer to Cove, trying to stop yourself from shaking at the bad thoughts that were entering your mind. Yeah, ghosts aren't real, right? I bet it's just a raccoon. He tried to speak with certainty, despite not being fully convinced of what he was saying.
hey, can you tell where it's coming from?
Not really.
Then we'll have to look more. Somewhere else. Maybe we'll see something.
Okay, let's go. 2 8-year-old detectives will get to the bottom of this. As you walked the familiar streets of your neighborhood, fear coursed through your veins. When your hand brushed against his, you realized that you hadn't been the only one who had been trying to close the gap. Shadows cut corners and angles where you didn't expect them, distorting the features you saw every day. The noise came again, shrill and hard. It set your teeth on edge the way it ground its way through you. Cove's throat bobbed. His eyes glistened in the dim light. Why don't we just go home? Why don't we just go home and tell our parents? I stayed frozen on the spot. I took a deep breath. I ran behind Cove. I took a deep breath to calm myself. You sucked in a lungful of the cool night air, letting it out slowly through your mouth. Your parents had mentioned that it was a good way of relaxing your nerves. There was no question that you were afraid of whatever the noise may be, but you didn't want that to stop you. Despite your fear, you had to be brave. Had to be brave for Cove. Cove stepped in front of you and looked at your face. He was serious. We can do it, Espoir. He lifted his hand up for you to take. Oh, I accepted his hand. You carefully slid your hand into his, and though your palms were both clammy, you held on tight. Whatever's gonna eat us, it's gonna eat us together. You couldn't explain why, but it made you feel stronger, and you felt like you were ready to continue on now. Cove shut his eyes and pressed his lips together. Your fingers locked around each other even tighter.
So...
Where did you want to check? The park, the beach, the hills behind my house because it's close to my house. You and Cove ascended the hill, lit only by the stars in the night sky. The wind rippled through the grass and ruffled your hair. Without the sun's light to translate what you were seeing, every bush in the distance looked like a creepy figure or a towering monster. Why don't we just go home, Cove? The noise was just as loud here as it was in your neighborhood, with just as little indication behind the cause. But we kept going forward because now I'm mad. Now whatever's trying to scare me is making me mad. Plus, I'm holding Cove's hand, so we're both brave. You couldn't stop when you had already gone so far. You had to find out what was going on. The top of the hill was an excellent vantage point to survey the town from. Everything appeared normal. There was no out-of-place sight pinpointing the answer to this mystery. Without visible markings to guide your way, you supposed it was up to you and Cove to deduce the source of the sound. The hill had many great hiding places, and you intended to check them all. You upturned rocks, peered up trees, and rummaged in the thick grass for anything that might bring closure to all of this. I don't think we're going to find something making that sound under a rock. You stuck close to Cove as you hunted for the source of the noise. When the shrieking noise shook the air, seeing him beside you calmed your racing heart. Seeking to ease your nerves and put aside thoughts of what might be out in this dark, spooky night, you decided to strike up a conversation. Your search for a topic was more fruitful than your search for the noise. Your eyes fell on Cove's cast, and you were instantly inspired.
Have you broken any other bones?
No.
Oh.
It turned out that wasn't much of an engaging topic for him at all. Yeah, I've never broken any bone.
Lucky.
That put an end to your injury discussion, but Cove's calmer move alleviated the bleak atmosphere like you hoped it would. Cove cast his eyes out into the darkness, feeling bolder.
Does this make you feel strange? We were people who heard weird noises at night and are out looking for what it is. It's like we're at the start of a book or a movie and we're the main characters. Yeah.
It's a fantasy story. We're gonna find fairies. I'm not gonna say this is a horror story, because I'm scared.
The world they found outside looked like their own, but it wasn't. They had stepped into another dimension without even knowing.
Really?
Yep, it's a dimension where everyone has been cursed to sleep until the monster making the noise is defeated.
How are we gonna defeat the monster?
We'll find magical swords that can defeat the dreaded beast with one blow.
We'll find ourselves a Vorpal blade.
Okay.
Well, whatever the noise was, you were confident that you had established that it was not coming from the hill. Once you were satisfied nothing out of the ordinary was to be found on the hill, you had to consider your next step. Going back home does sound nice, but I want to check the beach. The beach stretched out in front of you, nothing in sight along its sands, no matter which way you turned. Part of you had imagined the noise as some creature of the deep. What if it's a mermaid? Washed up on the shore and calling for aid. That theory had to be taken off the list for now. Still, you'd spent enough time on the shore to know that the real finds often required a sharp eye and careful attention. Man, how scary would that be if we as little 7- and 8-year-olds found a whale, a beached whale? That would be traumatizing. The sound was no more than a whimper now. Emboldened, you kept your head high and walked along the sand. Let's see if there's anything here. Cove began to comb the beach for clues. You followed suit. The angry wind sent grains of sand rolling across the beach like waves. That sounds so lovely. You stayed clear of the water, which was rough and choppy tonight, and scoured the area for hints as to what might be happening. You saw something glint in the sand, full of promise, but when you eagerly uncovered it, you found that it was just foil from a chip packet. You stowed it away with a sigh. Did you find something?
No.
Cove shrugged and gave you a sympathetic smile.
That's how it goes sometimes. You like hunting for treasures on the beach too, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever found anything mysterious or weird?
You were expecting him to mull the question over for a bit, but Cove answered immediately. Teeth. Teeth?
Like a shark's tooth?
You'd seen those for sale in shops, though you'd never been lucky enough to stumble across one at the beach. No, not that. People teeth. People teeth?
No!
Yeah, you know how grown-ups sometimes don't have their own teeth any longer, and they get those fake ones so they can still eat? Oh, okay. You nodded. listening in fascinated horror. I found some. The top half.
How'd you know it was the top half?
It had the pink top of the mouth bit, like this. He opened wide and pointed at the roof of his mouth. You let out a squeal.
What did you do with them?
Mom took them from me. I don't know what happened to it after that.
That was...
Yeah, that's pretty. That takes the cake. That's way stranger than the stuff I've seen.
The weirdest thing I remember was a keyring with Lizzie's name on it, but it wasn't actually hers.
The coincidence was made much less special by the fact that it actually had said Liz, a moniker your sister had never taken.
Neat.
Cove was still tickled by your discovery, even if you thought it wasn't as exciting as his. Yeah, finding some false teeth on the beach, that also traumatizing. As you contemplated your options, it occurred to you that you hadn't heard the noise for a while. You looked askance at Cove to see if he had noticed. He was still busy poking at the sand. You squeaked out a small sound. Cove brushed the sand from his hands and stood up.
What is it, Espoir? The noise.
Cove furrowed his brow, listening for the wailing and scratching that had lured you both from your beds. You watched as realization blossomed over his face. It's gone. You both stood awkwardly in the now silent night. Without the mysterious call to lead you, there wasn't a reason to stay out here any longer. The night was still as you walked home, with none of the usual background noises or the eerie whistle from before. You could hear every step you and Cove made like a cough in a movie theater. I wonder what it was, though. Maybe it was a ghost. The two of you came to a halt outside your front door. Never before had it looked so ominous. You wrung your hands nervously. Would your absence have been noticed?
Do you sneak out a lot?
No. Yeah, this is the first time. I don't normally do this, but the mystery called out to me.
Yeah, I've never tried to do it till now.
Thought so.
How'd you know?
I hadn't seen you out of my window this late before. That was fair, though it could have been possible you were just so good at sneaking that this was the first time he had caught you. Yeah, Cove.
Are you worried about getting caught?
No.
He was so forthright that you believed him completely.
But your dad, won't he get mad or sad if he catches you?
He's never happy with what I do. You sympathized, you encouraged Cove, you stayed out of it, you didn't know how to react. You encouraged Cove to think about it more positively. We probably just don't understand the inner machinations of an adult mind.
Your dad's just worried about you. He cares.
It doesn't matter if he worries if he's the one who makes things worse.
All right, I'm going in.
Bye.
'Kay. Good night.
Good night, Cove. Thanks for coming with me tonight. I'm not sure I could have done it by myself.
I wanted to go with you.
Oh, a little blush on his face. Oh.
You beamed at him. You turned the doorknob as slowly as a clock's minute hand, holding your breath for the telltale click of the lock. Then it nudged open. When all that happened was the door opening, rather than the blaring alarms that you feared, you'd melted with relief. Back inside your house, you were surprised to find your mom still watching TV. Weirder still, it looked like they were on the same show as they were watching before you left, yet you were positive you'd been out investigating for hours. Perhaps you could use their distraction to your advantage. If you could just get up the stairs, you would be safe from suspicion. But how could you get there? You decided to walk in your own house nonchalantly. You tried to sneak past. Let's do it nonchalantly and see what happens. I have nothing to hide. Yeah, you decided to walk in your own house nonchalantly. Sometimes the best you could do was hide in plain sight. You strode across the room in the direction of the staircase. Espoir?
Eep!
Your moms knew you were up, but they had no idea why. They abandoned the couch and their show to hurry over. They were still in a state of surprise. You weren't in trouble. Yet.
Are you okay?
What are you doing down here, sweetie? Did you have a bad dream? I did not answer. Their surprise gave way to concern, and the two shared a look.
Sweetie.
Honey. Mom took you by the hand and led you up the stairs. Oof, your hand is cold. Why didn't you come over to us?
I was supposed to be in bed.
Espoir, you won't ever be in trouble for coming to us when you're frightened. We'd much rather you came to us than try to solve things all by yourself. Yeah, I probably could have went downstairs and like, Mom, there's a ghost outside. Can you go kill it? Her phrasing made you feel bad. Aw, the nervousness ate at you as you were tucked into bed. Your mom's assumed that your flushing and insistence on delving under the covers was part of your fear, and spoke to you softly until you calmed down enough to peep out from underneath your sheets. Oh, are we also gonna get to see our moms age gracefully? Once your moms had left, you turned over the night's adventure in your mind. It was still hard to believe that you'd really done it. It was harder still to believe that you'd gotten away with it. Even now, you half expected to be caught somehow. Perhaps you'd left the door ajar or trailed sand where they'd already swept up. You hoped that Cove had gotten home okay, though he hadn't been worried. Being told off was never fun. Wriggling down deeper underneath your sheets, your thoughts turned to the unsolved mystery. You and Cove had only just begun to scratch the surface of it. Maybe you'd solve it, maybe you wouldn't, but what mattered was that you'd shared the experience with each other. You were still so energized by the night's excitement that you tossed and turned in bed for some time, thinking up theories to share with Cove when you next saw him. Oh! Sleep eventually claimed you, but the adventure merely resumed in your dreams. The next morning proceeded mostly like usual, though your mom seemed to be giving extra consideration since finding you last night. You later learned Cove didn't end up in trouble for the nightly escapade either. It was unclear whether that was because his dad chose not to punish him, or if Cove got away with it. It was amazing to you that it all worked out for you both. Oh, we'll sneak outside into the night. No one will ever know. As for the sounds that started this all, the adults around were convinced it was nothing more than the wind. For your imaginative mind, that wasn't nearly enough. How could they accept something so simple so easily? Maybe it'd make more sense when you were grown up too. Are we going to hear that? It would be so cute if we kind of like replay these stories as we get older. Like we hear the sound again as we're teenagers and we're like, wait, this happened when we were kids. What are we going to do about it now?